And here we are with show number 93 of The Last Angry DJ. By the way, that push that happens there in the video, that's the closest I've ever gotten it. So if you want to watch that back a few times. But, you know, it does that switch between my funky face with the smoke coming off my head, and then it goes in. Anyhow, I'm Mitchell Hill, and I used to be a radio DJ of some note, like so many other guys back in the 70s and 80s, in the golden age of broadcasting, and things have changed dramatically since then. And part of what the show talks about is that juxtaposition of how things have changed from the 70s and 80s into the 90s and the aughts. And my good friend, Mr. Alexander Knight, there he goes, appears with his schmoik. And happy Hanukkah to you, pal.
It's good to be here, Mitch, for episode 93 of The Last Angry DJ. This is the show that intersects old media versus new media, where we discuss our ongoing challenges in our various industries. Doesn't matter if you're in traditional terrestrial radio or broadcast or podcasting, or you're a YouTube content creator. We're all kind of getting together here and discussing some of the things that we need to do to survive in this industry. Because, man, things have changed over the last 5 to 10 years. People are not spending the same amount of money they used to on advertisements. We hear that a lot from our friends in the industry. And speaking of friends, we're going to talk to Mark Giuliani, who's a radio station owner. Always love hearing his unique perspective as an entrepreneur, as an architect, as someone who has his fingers in many different pies, but knows quite a bit about radio. How's it going, Mark?
How are you, Alex? Mitch, how are you?
Feel free to lick your
Christmas
fingers.
to everyone. What's that, Mitch?
It's today's Hanukkah, and he said you have your fingers in a lot of pies. So
I
feel
do
free
like,
to lick your fingers.
I like, lots of different pies. Pumpkin pie.
Okay, have at it.
pie.
What's your favorite pie, by the way?
My favorite pie? All
Yeah.
of them. Except
Wow.
mincemeat.
I'm not into
a big
pecan.
mincemeat fan.
Mincemeat.
Pecan
What
pie
is it?
good. I don't know.
What's mince? What is mince? Somebody on panel, please tell us.
It's, it could be scrapple.
I like scrapple, but I don't like mince. Maybe I just don't like the name. Anyhow, I'm sorry. I jumped in, interrupted your diatribe there.
I've completely forgotten what I was going to say now.
You were going to say, ask.
Well, we want people to ask questions on the show and interact.
Yes,
So.
we want people to ask questions on the show. Thank you, Alex. At ask.thelastangrydj.com. That's ask.thelastangrydj.com.
There you go. And for the record, today is the first day of Hanukkah. Not that I try to please all people by saying holidays. And anyhow, it's part of my beef later on. We'll get into how do you support everyone, because there's a lot of holidays going on right now. So whatever you're doing, and plus it helps because the Middle Eastern region of the United States had a nice sprinkling of snow last night. We got about something that you and Canada get all the time, but like we get 1 or 2 storms. So this one went 4 or 5 inches of semi-thick snow just stuck to the trees. So it kind of flocked all the trees. I said flock, okay, just so you know. Tree flocking, it's a thing. And my dog saw his first snow and loved it. He went out snow plowing and rolling and doing all kinds of crazy things that dogs do when they see snow for the first time. So I could not get him to come inside, even though I had a leash. I had to drag him in like this. It was hard, and he's just a little puppy. So there we go. So it's a fun show. Good to be here. Number 93, as I said. And we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. But one of the things is that still persists between when I was in radio back in the 70s and today is the talent. And the talent is essentially the people that do the talking on the radio. It could be a disc jockey, could be a newscaster, could be somebody like Mark, who's centering his picture in the 3-up. Did you get it there, Mark? There you go. He's got it fixed out. So you got to wonder, with all this craziness going on with AI and money not being very good for broadcasters, what's the future of talent on terrestrial radio? Because that seems to be the job position that's getting hit the hardest in most broadcast radio stations. The talent being the morning show or the afternoon, or anybody that's high profile, getting big bucks. You can be sure they're going to get their heads chopped off in the next essential cutting of budgets. And Mark actually is one of those people that does that kind of cutting, but not quite as much. He's much more sympathetic, I think, to talent than most people are. But those big corporations like iHeart, Cumulus, and all those guys, Beasley, they have been letting friends of ours go left and right. Andre Gardner's one of them at WMGK in Philadelphia. Couldn't be a nicer guy on the radio, liked by millions in the Philadelphia region, gone. And it's a shame. And his boss that fired him, I had a talk with him last week. There was a radio reunion, and we all got together. Eric Johnson and Johnson. Yes, I think so. Sorry, Eric. Eric, I'll just say that, who was the program director, got fired. Well, just the irony of it, got fired shortly after he let Andre go. So he's landed on his cat's paws at a radio station in New Jersey and seems to be doing well. But he laments the passing of radio as we know it. So I have to throw this out there for commentary, is what is going to be the future for talent on terrestrial radio? And to make matters worse, there are AIs now doing the job of disc jockeys. Now, Mark, I know you use that maybe for some of your commercials and things like that to promote your radio station. Do you see a time coming when there's not going to be any live warm bodies? Voice tracking, and I'll explain real quick what voice tracking is. That's sort of the current genre of ways that disc jockeys are heard. Like you can be a voice guy like me, and you can be a host on, let's say, 4 or 5 radio stations around the world or in the country. And what you do is you sit down behind a computer and you just record the segments that happen between the songs. Like you do the song intro, the outro, maybe the local weather, a little something about what's going on the station. And that's called voice tracking, but even that's being replaced by AI. Mark, what's your commentary on talent? Is it to be used? Is it to be abused? Are the days numbered for us guys?
I think that the days are numbered for the format of music. I think that once you start to talk about spoken word, it's going to be harder for AI to know the personalities that the station has, the ability to stay local, to have dialogue, to answer questions. I think the real change that radio is going to see is that we have to remember that radio is just a way to get the signal and to communicate with people. I think interactive radio, which is what talk radio is going to go to another level of interactivity. So not only will you have callers calling in, but you'll have people chatting, you'll have the people you'll have multiple people simultaneously communicating with the host and whoever the guests are that host has on at one time. So that's really going to change radio and potentially make radio, bring radio away from something that's done in the background and make it more of an active participation between people. Not everybody's going to want to do that. A lot of people are going to want to be out in the garage on a Saturday working on their car with the radio going in the background, but some people will want to participate in that, especially if the talent is knowledgeable enough about the local subject matter that they can really get in and start to have conversations with people, whoever the representatives are, whoever the experts are, in what's going on in those local communities. And I think that's the future of that form of entertainment, because that's really what it is. Some people want to go to the movies, some people want to listen to the radio, some people want to sit home on the couch, watch TV, everybody's got their own form of entertainment. Some people want to go, ride a bike. But I think that radio's future is going to be one where the talent steps up a little bit, does a little bit more research, really knows what the subject matter is that they're talking about, and they bring in experts. And I think that's going to be where radio survives.
It's a very interesting point and probably true. Let's make a comparison back to the way it used to be. Back in my day of radio, we were literally disc jockeys. There were usually like 5 of us. There would be a guy doing 6 to 10, a guy doing middays 10 to 2, a guy doing afternoon drive 2 to 6, a nighttime guy 6 to 10, and then maybe a nighttime guy going from 10 to 6 a.m. They always kind of stuck it to that person. And nowadays, there might be one or two people live doing the voice tracking or none. And there's not as much stuff being done because the computer does it. And because the computer's involved, we have to introduce AI. So let me jump over to Alex so he can get his 2 cents in. Alex, what do you think of what Mark's had to say?
I think he's spot on with that. And I'm frankly, I first of all, I appreciate his candor as somebody who obviously has a lot invested in the industry, but I think he's being brutally honest about it. And I genuinely have a concern too, because I don't really see a lot of new up and coming younger talent that wants to really get into this industry. I think part of the problem too is also that it's really, really hard in our current economy now to even make a living. Right. So, I don't know about where you guys are, but in Vancouver is one of the top most expensive cities in the world. Not maybe the most expensive, but it is definitely ranking up there with a handful of some of the most expensive. It's a beautiful city, but the real estate market is completely out of control. Nobody's doing anything about it. And, to buy any kind of decent property here, forget even owning, a house. I mean, you can't find a piece of property here for less than $1.5 million here. And
wow.
So if you're 19 or 20 going into radio and someone's going to offer you a job making minimum wage, which by the way, in British Columbia is $15 an hour, what are you going to do? So that means you now have to have a really good side hustle or a second job of some kind. You're working multiple jobs. You have and look, you got to do what you got to do. I don't begrudge people. I have side hustles too. You got to do what you got to do to survive, right? So if it means you have to sacrifice a little bit and work 7 days a week for a while to make ends meet, that's what you got to do. But there's no question it is really, really hard to survive right now. So I don't see it as a very profitable industry for a lot of people starting out. And with AI and technology being at the forefront of everybody's mind right now, there are a lot more people going into school to learn about how to be a programmer and learn how to be a prompt engineer. And that's where they're focusing on. The jobs are going to be in technology. And look, even technology. The technology industry has cut jobs, just to your point, Mitch and Mark, with AI. I mean, people are the rote, repetitive task jobs that were already, let's face it, didn't require the smartest or most experienced person. Those jobs are already going away now, and they're not going to come back. Just like in the 60s with the assembly line and automation. Look how many people lost their jobs. Look at what happened to the city of Detroit. We're seeing a repeat of history here, and I'm not sure where we're going to come out on the other end. People talk about, oh, well, we got to have universal basic income. Good luck with that. How are you going to do that? And especially if you compare Canada and the United States. I mean, certainly people in the United States seem to be very much anti helping each other out. It seems like people in the States are more concerned with themselves than, you guys don't, people are against socialized medicine, whereas everybody else in the world doesn't have to pay for an ambulance visit. They don't have to pay for a hospital visit. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Let me jump in there. First of all, I got a question for you and then a comment. First of all, do you have a spare bedroom? Because I'm looking around.
I got a walk-in closet. Does that help?
Wait a minute. You just said that the people in Canada are looking out for each other. All right, so look out for me.
You are more than welcome to set up a little cot in my walk-in closet if you need it.
Okay, there we go. Now, walk-in closet. I have to stand up to sleep. Anyhow, the other comment that I have about what you're saying is that voice tracking, as I said, is a going concern right now. But slowly but surely, it's being replaced by AI. So you don't even need voice tracking anymore to run a music radio station or any station that has a little bit of talking. There might be an AI in there in the mix, and there's a couple of companies that are coming out on top as being really good at it. I mean, they used to be kind of quirky, and they would do what we call hallucinate. If it was an LLM voiceover guy, it would mispronounce things like it wasn't David Bowie, it would be David Bowie or something. It would sound great, but it wouldn't be correct. So you have to go in and correct all those particular examples or instances where the AI does it wrong. I think the big secret about AI going on radio stations, first of all, it's a chance for the radio stations to save money. And I'll let Mark jump in on that point, because I don't think the people at the big companies, iHeart and Beasley, et cetera, can resist the opportunity to use AI to save money and not spend as much money to do music-only radio, or whatever. And to Alex's point and to Mark's point, I think that the days of music radio are limited because there's so many other opportunities and places you can go to get it. So the question I have is, if the listeners found out that it was an AI that they were kind of like enjoying or listening to, wow. Now, what would that do to the listening? And our friend Lee Jacobs over at New Voodoo Productions did a survey, and allow me to bring up the survey that they asked. This is it, the survey. If you found out that the voice introducing songs, again, this belongs to New Voodoo. I'm just using their graphic, giving you weather on a station like he was an AI, but not telling anybody, what would be the reaction? And I think they sampled 2,000 people, and these are the results. So what do you guys think of these results? Do they sound reasonable? Does it sound like the way people would respond? It would be devastating.
I'm surprised 7% said they'd listen more. That's hilarious.
Well, I think what we have to be careful of is assuming that the only use for AI is redo people's voices. I don't think that's the case at all. I think AI is going to do a lot of things. Look, the future of radio, and especially spoken word radio, is going to be where you have a host doing multiple things, many more things than they've done in the past. I mean, most small stations in the smaller markets, the host is running the board, they're taking the calls, they're doing a number of things, and that's only going to grow. They're going to have to get into social media, they're going to have to build themselves as the brand. And that brand's going to be part of that station, and they're going to have to reach out to all the social media. And where does the AI come in? AI comes in by helping them do that, helping them take a condensed run a show down, put it into AI, let it script it, and then send that out to social media. Here's what's coming up tomorrow on this radio show. Boom, 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 boom. Let it do all that work that's so time-consuming and push that out to the social media and promote the show. And then come back with special things that after the show, hey, here's what we talked about. Here's our podcast from that radio show. Here's a video clip of the radio show and all of those things. I don't necessarily think AI is going to replace the voices of people in a live production, because it's always going to be changing. People are going to be, in the future of radio is going to be multiple people communicating at once. You're going to have people in a chat, and I just don't think that AI's responses are going to be as close to what a human can do about the context of that question and the location.
Alex, what do you think?
It may take a few years to prove me wrong, but
yeah, absolutely. And my question to you, Mark, and I don't know if these tools exist now, where I see AI being useful is as a way to sort of make you more efficient. So, for example, let's take the example of being a program director. Obviously, that job is pretty important. You're dictating what music is going to get played on your station. And I don't know if these tools exist or not yet, but would it be potentially useful if you could use an AI, not to replace you, but if you used a tool to, say, analyze my playlist? I want to feed you my playlist. Now I want you to look at current industry trends, and I want you to tell me if you see any deficiencies in my choice that I picked. I could see that potentially being really useful, don't you?
I can't really comment on that because we're not a music station. So I don't have the history of that. Where I see AI today taking part is radio stations becoming much more like marketing firms, and you're trying to build the brand of your clients. So you're utilizing AI to say, what are the competition? What other companies compete with my client? What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? And how can we build an ad campaign?
You're talking about a strategy.
Right.
And you could certainly strategize, but to Alex's question about how does that affect music and the research that determines the playlist, it's been many years, decades even, since DJs made a decision on the spot what song gets played and when. It's all pre-programmed by a computer, essentially an AI that says, here is the number of songs we're going to play, which are targeted to the demographics that we decided to go after. And we have this pool of music that we play from. And then how they play that pool is determined by a computer, essentially an AI. So AIs are pretty darn good at doing that kind of stuff.
Well, hold on.
So
The program director still has to make a decision about how does it get there? Well, it still has to get there by somebody saying, I think this artist should be put into the rotation, right? It's not totally...
No, what they do is that the program director usually interacts with the program. It's usually a music scheduling program. The big ones, RCS is one, Power Gold. There are a number of different companies out there. And what the program director would do, or the music director at the station would do, is that they would set up rules that these systems operate under that says, well, if you play this artist, you're not going to play another song by that artist with a certain amount of repetition, or the metadata that we have on that particular artist is stronger than this artist, so therefore we're going to influence the playlist a certain way. It's very, very sophisticated, and the program director doesn't on a daily basis interact with it, but he might review it. He might review it and say, okay, well, I'm going to override that decision, and and that's what gets done, and maybe they'll keep their jobs as long as that goes on. But an AI should be smarter at doing that, making those decisions. As far as running the radio station, there really eventually doesn't need to be a program director, because you don't need a program director to manage the talent in the station. You've already made the decision, Mark, as an owner, for example, that we're going to do this format, and then you buy the software and give it the rules that it needs to follow, and then you follow the metrics as to what the people listening, whether they enjoyed it or they didn't, et cetera, et cetera. I think the number of people, it's not just talent that's going to disappear from radio stations. I think it's people that's going to disappear.
Let me just step in here for a second. I think you have to remember something, and that is that years ago, a lot of these stations got bought up by some of the larger businesses in this industry.
90s.
Right. Yeah. And so instead of having a program director for each station, you now have a program, maybe one for the whole country. And that program, and a lot of these stations are subscribing to a company to prepare for them a list of what music needs to be played when, based on quantitative methods that are determining what's going to get the most listeners. So
up until recently,
but that's the way it happens.
Up until recently, there was a national program director at that particular company. Let's just say Beasley out of the blue, and then they might break that job into different regions of the country. But there was always a program director at the station that managed the station at a much more granular level, managed the talent, managed the branding, managed the RCS or the programming. They weren't eliminated. They probably did less than they did way before. Alex, you wanted to jump in there.
No, go ahead.
Well,
didn't. Okay.
I remember 30 years ago, we would get reels of tapes into the radio station and put them on the tape decks, and they would automatically play a certain amount of songs, and the next month another set of reels of tapes would come in. So the person running the board would interject and offer commentary, but the next song coming up was on a reel-to-reel tape player, and you weren't going to go searching for somebody's request.
Well, it was somebody like these guys. This is TM Century. Whoops, I have it upside down now. TM Century had a program called Stereo Rock that was very popular, and this is Gold Disc. This is a compilations of music that they had, and that was the days of automation, which was very linear because it was on a reel of tape and multiple reels of tape, and there would be a quasi computer in there that you would program with little pegs or software as it got more sophisticated. Schaefer was another company that had them, and these guys would just turn out music, but it was very limited because all of the jock commentary wouldn't. There was a guy named John Borders that lived in Dallas that did all the TM Century stuff, and he did that was and here is that was his thing. That's what he did. He did all the intros and outros on the reel to reel. So it was very local, not localized, but very tied to the tape. Yeah, it was just one iteration of where we are coming to today with more and more of these AI decisions being made. But I think that as these companies realize that we don't need to have warm bodies at our radio stations in Lewis, Delaware, or in Wilmington, Delaware, or in Frogs Dick, South Dakota. It's all being done by our master computer at company headquarters. Like, for example, I just showed this. This might be where the music was a while back, but nowadays I bet the way it works is the corporation has a huge library of music that all their owned and operated facilities are drawing from, and they're just transferring the files in order to play at the local level. But even that is going up for grabs now because radio can operate on the cloud now. There's companies like Cloud 3, Citrus 3, I think it's called. I mentioned them before. You can start up a radio station right now within 5 minutes. And you don't need any equipment. You don't need a console like I've got and microphones and all that kind of stuff. It's all done virtually. So I think the future of radio is very, very much in crisis. And I think that what we should start to shift away from the crisis idea and what is the format that's going to work best in that world. And I say to Mark, what you're doing as a talk station is probably more likely to gather more people listening because people don't need to listen to music via the radio anymore like they used to. I would if the radio included a personality that was there and you knew they were there and they were well knowledgeable of the music that they were playing and they imparted some of that knowledge and made it part of the entertainment. But if it's just there to talk 10 seconds for 15 seconds on the intro and the outro, I think those days are going. I think you got a question just popped in there, Mark.
Well, I think it was just on to the next segment, which is about you've changed it to formats now rather than type of announcer, right?
I did talk. So there's the question. So the question is, what formats are going to survive into the future? Alex has already said that he thinks that music radio is in trouble. Alex, I want you to go ahead and take us there and to the next level.
Well, I mean, I feel like, again, I don't run a radio station. I don't have access to people's analytics. But my sense is that it's been on the sort of decline for quite a few years. It's already happening. It is happening right now because, let's face it, everybody that listens to music, for the most part, they're going to be on a streaming platform like Spotify or Apple Music, and they're curating their own playlist. They're listening to their own thing, and they have access to whatever music they want without interruption of ads or somebody talking over a song or talking over their favorite guitar riff, that kind of thing. I mean, there's tons of reasons not to listen. Like, no offense, but it's like, yeah, it had its time back in the day. And, in the 90s and stuff like that. And even back then, I cared more about the personalities. We've talked about this. This is a recurring thing. It's about the personalities. It's about being entertained. That's what the show is about. I didn't really listen to the radio just for my favorite song. Okay, that was one aspect of it, but it was really about, what kind of prank were they going to pull today, or what were they going to say? What kind of ludicrous thing were, Larry and Willie going to say next on Sea Fox all the time?
You're talking about really morning zoos, they used to call
that,
them.
Yeah, and I love that kind of stuff. That's why I would tune in.
Now, would you listen to a radio station? Let's say it was run by Rick Beato, and Rick did a
with that guy's
show
incredible
for 6 hours.
knowledge. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, see, that's the difference. Or your radio guy that we had as a guest,
Larry Hennessy.
He would be good. Larry Hennessy. Sorry, Larry. And Mark, you want to jump in?
Well, yeah, I think to Alex's point, it's about the talent, and it's about being able to captivate an audience, and it doesn't matter whether it's music or not. I mean, one of the ways for radio to survive at smaller local market stations is really to be able to know that market, and not forget that you're reaching well beyond the tower's reach today. Because of the social media, because you're streaming over the internet, you have a much further reach. So you want to have that ability to capture an audience. So that's one, it's a talent. I think you're going to see the voices of radio from the older days that you do such a good job at, Mitch, with that beautiful radio voice, that's going to go away because it's going to be more of a conversation. Instead of one person talking into a microphone, you're going to have a conversation. I think you're going to see video come into this because it's all going to head towards the internet as part of this platform that's going out and being broadcast over radio, streamed over the internet. You're going to have people being able to come back into this audience. And so you're going to be able to talk to experts. You're going to be able to have conversation, but it's going to have to be a little bit of a hybrid conversation because you're going to have to be able to analyze what's going on in the national market with how it affects the local market. So for politics...
Essentially all we did as disc jockeys at the top of our game in major markets is that we were promoting a brand. Like when I was working at WFIL in Philadelphia, I would say 90% of what I talked about wasn't, about my personal experiences and how much fun it was. I was branding the radio station, and I talked the same way. I'd be like, WFIL on $1 million weekend. We got a little bit of snow out there, but let's just keep going. I'll warm you up with some great songs in the next hour. Now, what was that? That's just sort of branding. I'm promoting the station and the music that we played. It wasn't, me talking like, we got a little bit of snow outside, but that's okay. My dog likes to run and jump in it and have fun, and he particularly likes to hear that song Shannon that used to be about a dead dog back in the 60s and 70s. I mean, that's a conversation. What we're doing right here is a conversation. So I agree with you. I agree. I think that whatever's left of radio, it's going to be a personality because the music, as Alex said, is so available, so finely tuned and sculpted and curated just for you. Radio is a one-to-many. Today's radio, like Spotify and Pandora and all the other guys, is a one-to-one. It's programmed specifically for your taste and your needs and your interest and your geographic, sensibilities. So I think that you just don't have the space in your brain to include these other forms of entertainment that were big in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And the funny thing about it, I think the only people that are going to be left, jonesing for the way radio used to be, are going to be the old guys, like, in their 60s and 70s. Look at the ads you see on TV now.
But
Mark.
I think that you're playing out a role of radio if radio doesn't change. Radio has to change. One of the ways radio has to change is this. When you just gave that example of a promo, the promo was about the brand of the station.
Correct.
Those days are gone. The promo now has to be about that show because in order to be successful in radio and on the podcast, you got to promote that podcast and that show becomes a brand unto itself. Now, you may have a mega brand, here's all of our shows, but you really got to start promoting the show or that, and it won't even be a day part anymore. It's going to be, here's the show, watch the podcast at this time, and you're going to have these little competitions going on at a station between the different shows. So I think it's going to be, I think you will get a younger audience in there if you bring humor into politics. You look at the things that have been able to be done by different people that are political talking heads that have brought comedy into that. They've started to get a much younger audience. And I think part of the problem why radio's median age keeps going up as listeners is because they're not reaching out to the younger audience anymore and providing anything entertaining to them.
Well, the younger audience can't relate to the way radio used to be done. And
right, so we got to change.
A lot of radio programs, they were successful in the 80s, the methodology they used. So now they continue to use that methodology. That's just stupid. That's hiking the opportunity for radio to become demolished because of using old technology and old approaches. And younger people, they don't know from the 80s. That's ancient history. They don't care about that. So, and I'll bring Alex into the conversation, talking about so many other opportunities. If it's about the music, and you want just to hear that music for while you're doing other things as a companion format, There's so many other options that can do that don't have commercials, don't have yelling DJs. I can't figure out why the folks at Sirius XM haven't gotten that yet. They reproduce old time DJs introducing the songs, and that's really not what it's about, And I'm old enough to know how it used to be, and I'd love to work at Sirius, by the way. But I couldn't bring myself to be on there like, hey, Sirius XM, we're talking to a guy in Lickskillet, Alabama. What's happening? Oh, I like listening to your show. You're the best. I love when you play Shannon. It's like, I don't give a crap about this guy out in the middle of the Midwest that's listening to it. It's really, I'd rather have just do segues one after the other.
I agree. And I think, if only the licensing wasn't so complicated for broadcasts outside of radio, because, I would love in a podcast format if somebody could do, for example, like you mentioned Rick Beato, if he did a show where he was talking about albums. The problem is on a podcast outside of radio, you don't have the license to play any music, not even 2 seconds of that song. They won't allow you to. So if the licensing landscape was a lot easier and approachable for people, where anybody could have a show and do something really, really interesting, where somebody could tune in and you had a way to monetize that in a podcast, I think that would be really interesting. So, hey, what I'm saying is radio still has advantages in that. That's not something you can get in the world of podcasts. I can't talk about and play music. That's something you can only get on radio.
Well, you can pay the music police their due.
Yeah, we're talking about it's cost prohibitive. No one's going to do that.
Horribly expensive. But
and part of the problem is you spend
out there that'll. There are companies out there now that are making it easier to do it, but the record companies aren't helping you do that because, frankly, they don't want you to do it. They don't want to manage thousands of radio stations on the internet. They want to keep things the way they are. They'd much rather make it tough on you by having certain draconian rules to enforce it, including those that YouTube does for fair play. And we've had many conversations about that. Mark, you're up. What do you have?
Well, I mean, I think that what we've talked about here today is that the talented announcers and show hosts are going to be those that learn how to do a little bit more than what radio is. I think we've discovered that news talk and different variations of spoken word, even adding a little bit of comedy to it and talking more about local events, are going to be what becomes the successful sauce of radio.
Okay. All right. What's the next question?
Next question is, what do you think of the $80+ billion deal for Netflix to acquire Warner Brothers? Are they the best steward? Will they reserve the Warner archive?
Yeah, like what's going to happen?
Preserve.
I mean,
It's
Alex,
preserve.
I'm with you. It's like I'm worried about how it's going to affect what I pay because I have HBO Max, they call it now, and I have Netflix. Does that mean that they're going to combine them and I pay the same that I have? Am I going to pay more? Are we going to lose some of the great independent programming that HBO does because they have very high standards, maybe higher than what Netflix has? The politics involved and everything. It's just it's a huge battle that's going on out there right now between all the streaming services because now Paramount is challenging this deal and they're looking to try to block this from happening. So, I see what's in it for them, but what's in it for us as the viewers? Are they doing things for us or are they doing things because it's a big corporate move and they're going to do what they're going to do? I think they're going to spin Discovery off. I never understood Discovery and Warner Brothers being the like-minded, companies. Always thought it was a different beast. But my opinion is that something's going to happen, and we're going to have absolutely no say in it. And whatever it happens, that when the chips fall, it's going to cost us more. We're going to be paying more for less.
Well, it's already like that now. I mean, look, there's so many streaming services, so much choice. By the time you add up all the dollars that you're spending on subscriptions, it's a lot. It's well over $100 a month, most likely, with all these services, right? So, but my concern is Netflix. First of all, I'm not enthused by this because on the one hand, I don't want to see Warner Brothers disappear, but I also don't want a company that is entirely driven by analytics who does not have a good track record of making good movies. I mean, yeah, okay, every now and again they make a decent movie, but they have far more garbage out there on their streaming platform than any other in terms of I'm talking the original programming. And also they clearly don't care about theatrical runs. And the other aspect
Netflix
of it is
now?
I'm talking Netflix. They don't care about theatrical runs. And then the other thing they don't care about, I'm assuming they don't care about, is physical media, preserving old movies, archiving and restoring old films. Are we going to see, even on their platform, are we going to see a whole section that celebrates and highlights Warner Brothers, 100 years of filmmaking? Or I would love to see that, but I'm not confident that they're going to do that. So look, the deal doesn't go through for another year. We don't know how it's going to play out. I just have some big concerns about this.
And rightfully so, because anytime the corporate biggies make these decisions, they're rarely in our best interest. They're mostly in the interest of the people sitting in their ivory towers, figuring out how they're going to take their golden parachutes and leave the company with millions and billions of dollars in their pocket. And it's not going to be good for us. Meanwhile, as Alex states, we're in a bit of a feeding frenzy right now because there are too many streaming services out there. I just recently had to go to the board and say, hey, my board is my dog, and say, we got to kill two of these services. Which one are they going to be? And I killed Disney. I'm upset about it because I don't want to lose The Mandalorian. But somehow I think that's going to end up on one of the other services, so I'll put up with it. What it really comes down to with all these shows and things that are on, that are theatrical releases and on specific networks, is that it's a property. If you don't mind waiting, eventually it's going to cycle around to one of the other services, whether it's Prime, like I'm watching on Prime, I'm watching Landman, the current issues on Paramount, which is the other service I just canceled, and I'm like, wow, I get to see Landman, and I thought I would have to kiss it goodbye for a year or two till they get it together. I am missing out on the latest episodes of Strange New Worlds, the Star Trek. So we'll see what happens. And they got another series coming out. I think it's called Legacy. Star Trek Legacy?
No, it's Starfleet Academy. Starfleet Academy. Legacy Academy got canned. Legacy was a project in the works that got canned.
Okay. I wish they'd make up their mind. They're really screwing with the Star Trek canon. I mean, it's just all over the place. Again, it's like a feeding frenzy. They throw some chum in the water there, and they see where, it's going to go there. Strange New Worlds was good for a while, and now we got to retire that after 5 seasons. So I think we got, and somewhere along the line they decided, I'm getting into a beef area. Why did they decide now that a year's worth of shows is 10 episodes? Mark, what's the answer to that? Why is it 10?
I don't know, but
anymore?
I think when you start to look at $80 billion is being spent to start to acquire and merge these, it tells me that the pricing is going to go up to pay for the $80 billion. And people are going to start getting sick of, and you've just given us an example. I'm cutting one or two of these. People are getting sick and tired of the nickel and diamond. And I think we're going to see the revisit of ads coming back into these because some of these brands and platforms are already saying, okay, well, if you don't want to go up to our newest level, then you're going to have to watch some commercials. So you're going to start to see people say, wait, I'll sit through a few ads to save $20 or $30 a month.
And now we're getting back to the old TV, terrestrial TV model where they run commercials and, you watch a great movie with a cliffhanger moment and on comes, ads for boner cream. I mean, I just don't get the connection between them. Yes, they do. They do that. And usually it's some kind of medical appliance or thing. I mean, what are the old days of Ron Popeil and the Pocket Fisherman and the Hairspray and the Vegematic? I mean, those are the days that I used to have fun watching TV.
Rice-A-Roni.
Yeah, right. The San Francisco treat. Ding, ding. Yeah. I mean, I can do all the, sing all the, Frankly, that's a spicy meatball. Remember the old commercials for aspirin, for Bayer aspirin? So anyhow, those were the days. And something will happen. But ultimately, you must vote. Excuse me. You must vote with your wallet. Used to be you voted with your clicker. Now you vote with your wallet. So some companies aren't going to make it. Some are. And maybe Netflix is destined to be the one that survives. I hope not. Maybe Warner Brothers will hang in there. What a classic name, a company. Maybe Paramount will have problems. But a lot of the big boys have come and gone, and it's been tough. So I think that's. And unless you guys have something else you want to do, I'll run into my beef for the week and my other complaints. Even though I'm starting to complain and grovel and do stuff. All right, so it's time for Mitch's beef of the week. And I've got a couple of things that really beef me out. And there's that expensive title that Alex did. Thank you, Alex. I'm going to wipe it off the screen. Whee! How about that? I like that stuff. Anyhow, a couple of things. We're heading into the holidays. Today's the first day of Hanukkah, by the way. I, for one, am very concerned about how do you wish somebody a happy holiday. Now, the word you use is holiday because you're supposed to not upset somebody that's celebrating Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or Chanukah or whatever you want to say, or Christmas. I just say, hey, Merry Christmas. I'm old fashioned. I watched the stop animation movie with Burl Ives singing Holly Jolly Christmas. I'm just showing my age here. So I don't worry about the political or religious ramifications. If they say they're Jewish and they want to, hey, happy Hanukkah to you. Today's the first day of Hanukkah. It's a good salute. So I have problems with trying to figure out which one is not going to upset somebody because we live in this world now where everybody says, oh well, you kind of left that person out. They didn't get their salute. I just say Merry Christmas, and if they cop an attitude, that's their problem. So that's one of my beefs of the week. And then the other one is when do you take down your Christmas decorations? People. I mean, I live close to the C&D canals, the Mason-Dixon line. And, I drive downstate sometimes. Mark, you see this. People still have their Christmas decorations up in July. When is the time that you take the decoration, the lights on the house that are falling off, the broken Santa? I mean, there is, granted, some people are spending a small fortune on decorating their homes. But when do you usually take it off? New Year's? Christmas? Day after Christmas?
Why put them up?
What do you mean, why put them up? You got to celebrate.
You just got to take them down. No, I think that, yes, you're starting to see people keep them up longer and longer, but you're also starting to see people put them up like right after Halloween. Some people are skipping Thanksgiving and get right into it way before Christmas, but before Thanksgiving. I mean, traditionally,
Christmas music in October.
Traditionally, I always thought the Christmas decorations went up after Thanksgiving and came down. What is it, 12 days after Christmas? Because the Christmas period lasts a little bit longer than just Christmas Day. So.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate that. I don't want to be a humbug, but, people keep asking me here in my building, have you decorated? Did you put a tree up? You'd have balls on it and lights and stuff. I said, I just got a brand new puppy. How long do you think a tree will exist in my place? He's going to be leaping up into the air, climbing the tree, pulling it out. Hear crash sounds, all day long. You know what I do for Christmas? I open my closet door. I got a little tree there. I pull it out. I stick it on the shelf. And I got the elf thing where the elf is not, there's something about elves. And I put that out. I'm done. I'm done with my Christmas decorating. And at the end of the Christmas day, I go back in, I take the tree off the shelf next to my TV, and I open the closet door and stick it on the water heater. And it's done for another year. Alex, what's your excuse?
Well, I'm very much like Mark. I don't put decorations up. Typically, I don't put lights up, so I don't have anything to worry about. It's way too much work. I see my dad every year. He's putting the Christmas decorations up and taking them down, and he has to go downstairs to the storage room. And he's bringing all these bins up. to the apartment, and because my mom likes decorating it, but that's just.
What are you, anti-Christ? What are you?
It's not for me.
You're
It's
a
just,
mean one.
You know what? It's
Mr.
pretty when it
Rich.
goes up, but that's for somebody else to do, not for me.
Okay. Mark, do we have any comments from our small, dwindling audience here?
None that are worthy of radio.
What do you mean? Jerry Hoyle said his mother-in-law left the artificial tree up.
She's listening.
Never used living room year-round. So apparently he's celebrating, and he's got it in a room, and he puts his mother-in-law. Mother-in-laws are great litmus test for, Christmas holidays, anything what you got going on in your home. And by the way, while you're here, please ask your questions or comment, Mukana, and you can do that at ask.thelastangrydj.com. Post your question and or use the QR code, which is sitting there hovering magically over in this corner over here. Alex spent a lot of money to get that. He spent at least $2 to put that up there. So make sure you get your thing in there. And also hit the subscribe button. Where does that sit? Right about here? Yeah, subscribe, and then you got like next to that over here. And we need all that just to give it a Christmas gift. And go to, Alex, how do they go to leave a cup of coffee or a fifth of scotch? How do they do that? Just a Christmas gift. Don't you think
they can do that by going to patreon.com/thelastangry.dj. That's patreon.com/thelastangry.dj. Become a coffee supporter. That's what we call it. $2 a month is going to help us out immensely. Of course, you can, like Mitch said, you can subscribe to the show on YouTube if you prefer the show as an audio podcast. We usually release the full episode the day after the show airs, which is Monday. We live stream every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 p.m. Eastern time. And you can find the show in any podcast app that you prefer: Apple, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. You can ask your Amazon Alexa device to play the podcast, and we will be there. And of course, you can join our community. We'd strongly encourage you to do that. You will see a QR code. I've got a new one this week.
Expensive.
I've designed a new QR code that looks a little bit nicer. And that will let you into our community where you can ask us questions and we can just chat about whatever you want to talk about, whether it's the show, the industry, do you want to talk about movies, whatever. We've got all sorts of different channels in Discord, so please head over there. And of course, we'd like to thank the fine folks at Boink Software that make producing this show possible in Mimo Live. That is the production tool we're using to bring all our Zoom ISO sources in here, get all the graphics and everything here and live stream it out to you in stunning 4K. So thanks to Boink Software for doing that. Back to you,
Yeah,
Mitch.
thanks for that. I appreciate that. And next week, I guess, will be our holiday special because it's what,
Sure.
the 21st?
It's the last one
I believe
before
it is.
Christmas.
Yeah, last before Christmas. Can we get like blinky lights around
Absolutely. I'll work
the
on
border? Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. Just some blinky lights. I'm going to put a tree over here where my Sockler tripod is. I'm going to put a tree there and have lights on it. Something interesting, just so we, show. And I'll have the menorah with the Hanukkah lights on it, blinking. It'll be nice. It'll be nice. We appreciate that. Mark, what did you learn from today's show? Anything interesting?
You know what I really want to learn more about is dressing pets up for Christmas. Are you going to talk about that at all?
I was going to talk about it, then I'm not going to talk about it, but I will talk about it. Please, your pets don't need to be dressed up with coats and booties and antlers and things like that. They don't really enjoy it. You think they look cute and they're having a great time with it. They're not. My dog bit me when I put antlers on him, and it didn't work out for me. So don't do that. I'm speaking on behalf of my dog, Loki, the god of mischief. He does not like anything attached to his body. He wants the freedom to roll around in the snow and do the shovel with his little nose and end up with snow on the end of it. To me, that's cute. So don't dress your pets up. Don't put them up on social media. I'm tired of seeing cats and dogs being abused in that way. It's just too much for me to deal with. Alex, you have any comment on that?
I 100% agree with you, Mitch, and I made the mistake of one time I went to the night market here, and there was a vendor that was selling clothes just for animals, And I bought this like frilly dress and I put it on my cat, and boy, she was not happy about that.
Yeah, cats have a way of showing you that they don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
They just get little footsies like that, and they go crazy. Okay, so we covered it all. Thanks, Mark, for bringing up the pet-related thing. I let it slip between my fingers. We'll be back again with the broadcast Boffins. Until then, you'll be good and have a very safe week and enjoy your Hanukkah.